Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have John Treadway with us. He is CEO and co-founder at AI Technology Partners. His current product is called allgen.ai. So we're going to talk about that one today. This podcast is brought to you by podpar.com. That's my podcasting agency. We help you scale podcasts and monetize them. A bunch of people start pods, but they give up on them because it's not profitable, because they're not getting the right guests, they're not getting the right traction. I have the solutions and the systems to remediate to that problem and make your podcast a money flywheel, if that's even a word, never printing ATM, because that's what podcasts are supposed to be. You can learn from people, you can build your community, and even get clients from them. Podpar.com for that. John, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about AI Technology Partners.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Really appreciate being here. AI Technology Partners was a firm we founded, changed the name to about 6 months ago, really focusing on AI adoption, specifically around generative AI. Along the way, we've also built a platform, which think of it as a ChatGPT for enterprise, but any model, not just OpenAI, and a lot of application level functionality that you don't find in any other tool. But our real focus is trying to get customer solutions deployed. So think of it as a combination of customer data, a business process, the generative AI component of it, tying it all together, building the right workflows, and delivering something that is actually an outcome as opposed to just a tool for the end users.
Right. And what were you doing before that? How did you get the idea to start that one?
So I actually have come out of the consulting and services and software business for many, many, many years. My last real big consulting company gig was at a cloud startup or a cloud consulting firm called Cloud Technology Partners. And we were very successful and had a great exit outcome to Hewlett Packard Enterprise back in 2017. And when I looked around and I thought, well, I'd love to start an AI consulting firm. At the time, AI consulting firms meant finding PhDs in data science and paying a lot of money. And it looked really, really difficult, really risky. Then, fast forward in the almost a year ago, now end of next month, it'll be a year, when ChatGPT launched. And it became pretty clear pretty quickly that generative AI was a kind of a different thing. It didn't require to use it and to get value out of it, doesn't require having PhDs in data science on staff. It requires having people that can understand how to use and manipulate this kind of technology, which is far more accessible to the average developer and consultant to be able to kind of engage with and work with. So that about, by the time we kind of really made the decision on that was probably around March. To shift the focus of our company, and I had a company that was focused on was more of a marketplace play in a different vertical, and really it wasn't flying. So this was a complete 360 or 180 degree pivot, changing our business model, our name, our focus, and everything to the generative AI space. So that was about 6 months ago, 5, 6 months ago, something like that. And it's been really a successful change and transition. We have a lot of great activity going on, great clients, and as I said, a technology platform, which we call AllGen, that we're building on top of for these solutions.
Well, so as you told me, it's more like prompts and processes and frameworks that you sell. So what do you sell precisely, and to what ideal customer persona?
So the one that we're targeting, the ICP, is professional services businesses or enterprise services businesses, IT services and related, really targeting the enterprise buyers. The services companies are targeting enterprise buyers. And it's why that's relevant is that the sales process and the focus that they need to go through is very rigorous. There's a lot of activity, a lot of approach that they need to focus on in terms of how they sell, how they deliver. And all of that is currently very, very heavily manual. It's very much knowledge worker based. However, there's a lot of similarities when you go from deal to deal. If you go under the hood and look at the documents, look at the documentation, so discovery documents, risk registers, internal approval forms, and all of the other things that you have to do as a sales team both the sales rep and the technical pre-sales people. So we're focusing on that, as an example, that one process as a primary for us is to go through that solution architecture phase, RFP responses, all the way through to generating statements of work, driving the documentation for kickoffs, driving the documentation for when there's a change order on a project or a managed service, and now I need to focus on new things, right? Updating documentation for the team. What are they supposed to be doing every day? All of that can be heavily driven through generative AI in a way that we can cut, depending on the process, anywhere between 50 and 80% of the cycle time from when you start that to finish by moving to generative AI, as opposed to doing it the way that it's been done literally since the beginning of services in the enterprise space, right? It's been that way forever. So we all have to scope things. We all have to get the customer to buy off on it. We all have to put our creative hats on and our knowledge and our technical understanding. So the consultants still have to do their job, but all of the documentation, all the work around that takes up all of the, really more than half of their time in a lot of cases, but it doesn't actually move the ball forward. It's just part of the process. We can automate that.
Very interesting. I see Bard on your website, and ChatGPT is obviously still great, especially at copywriting. I use Claude and Perplexity. Perplexity, I believe, used the ChatGPT algorithm, but it's still quite good and detailed, and I use it more for research, scientific research, that is. How do you use Bard? Because Bard has never won any competition in my world, at least. So what's the use case for Bard?
So we're talking about the ecosystems that we're willing to support. We haven't actually deployed anything with Bard at this point. We're working with OpenAI and Azure OpenAI. We've got some potential projects where we'd be working with Anthropic, Klon, AWS Bedrock, as an example, connecting to it directly. So there's the concept here, or the general point, is to show what's the art of the possible, as opposed to exactly everything that we're doing. One of the more interesting capabilities is the ability for us to also talk to on-premise or dedicated LLMs that you might have fine-tuned or trained and deployed. So Mosaic ML or others. So that is that from our perspective, it's a real differentiator, because as you pointed out, with the models that you're using, some are better for some tasks and others are better for other tasks. And particularly when we get into models that are going to be trained in domains like MedPalm 2, or there's IBM's working on a model for legal and procurement, as an example. When you start working on those models are typically going to be things that are deployed on company servers or in companies' cloud environments, as opposed to a generalized cloud service. So our ability to connect to any of those models and then apply the right kind of both operational workflows, but also prompt-based workflows on top of that, allows us to deliver really high value very quickly.
Why do you think Google is so slow and not performing as well as other companies out there in terms of AI, if they have Dennis Abbas from DeepMind?
That's a good question. So generative AI and the kind of AI that they've really been driving for a long time, obviously, are not exactly the same thing. They're all part of the AI world, but their Gemini model, which I believe, I don't know if that's out yet, but I believe that's coming, has reportedly much better performance, much better capability, much better outcomes. But they released Bard, and Bard really, as you said, hasn't really gone anywhere. Nobody's thought it's very interesting. It hasn't moved the needle at all. They'll probably get it right, because they're going to pour the energy into it, and they need that strong capability. The same way, think about it, the way that Microsoft has embedded OpenAI into Copilot and putting Copilot throughout their entire productivity suite and all of their applications. Google's going to need something at least as good in Google Suite, Google Workspace, right? And Gmail and all of the other products that they're trying to sell, AdWords, et cetera. So they're going to need to have something very, very high quality. So they'll continue to work on it until it's at the same level or pretty close in a lot of cases. But OpenAI is way ahead, right? Multimodal with Llama 3, I mean, with DALL-E 3, and adding that in there and being able to generate images, being able to look at images with ChatGPT Vision, all of that. Google's way behind on those things, and they'll catch up, but they've got a lot of work to do.
Right. I'm looking for various AI frameworks to solve some of the problems that I have in my business. Ideally, I never have to hire any humans again. I think we're quite far from agents, but for example, I have this mailbox of mine, right? I use Canary Mail, and I'm about to hire an assistant that would basically use templates and customize these little templates a bit further, so that I can answer 200 positive replies that I get on a daily basis to from my cold email. Is there an AI app? Because it seems that the leading company in terms of AI and email, or the one that I think at least that had a better chance, was Superhuman. They were a complete disappointment. Then came Gmail, but Gmail is too slow. You need to click the button, then the AI is loading, takes like 10 frigging seconds to answer. Is there like such an app that I could use, or should I build a prompt like when you in Zapier, like if I receive this email in Gmail, run it through OpenAI, open a new chat, and then write a draft email? Like, how should I go with that to take my replies at scale?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting approach using Zapier, and I actually like that model because there isn't. I'm just going to answer generally. There isn't yet that capability. Certainly not in the main platforms yet. It will be there, but it's not there yet. So it'll be in Microsoft Office Mail, so Exchange. It'll be there. It's just not there yet. So through Copilot, and it's not where Google needs it to be yet. So I expect it's going to be there. And there are some other tools. I don't know. There's about 15 different email clients these days that at one point I was looking at, and I can't remember most of their names. I feel the same way about Superhuman. I tried it out. I thought it was kind of interesting. I thought it was ridiculously overpriced for what value it was giving, so I dropped it. But the people are working on that, right? So the productivity in email and being able to auto-generate responses. But one of the challenges is that these auto-generated responses, oftentimes they all come out kind of sounding fairly similar. And the key is that if you actually start to engage with that individual directly, the response should sound a lot like you. Like when you actually are going to get in there, you want to make sure that it sounds like you in a way that or when you get that next exchange and you start communicating with the person, they think of it as seamless. Because if it's really formal or too lengthy and too constructed in the automatic response, and then you respond back with a 3-word kind of reply to the next email, it's going to be jarring. So just as you build it, think about the prompt templates that you put in there and how you do your style and tone of voice and the instructions that you give it to make sure that it actually does look a lot like the emails that you have sent in the past to these kinds of responses. Anyway, I like the Zapier approach. That could be interesting. Auto-generate drafts, and then basically go to your drafts folder to finish replying to all your email. I don't know. That's kind of interesting.
What other use cases are you currently using for your company or for your clients of easy apps that we could go buy today and save tons of time and energy?
I think they're all getting to that point, right? One of the ones that I haven't found a good solution for yet, but has a high degree of value if it gets there, is the ability to take content and turn it into really good high-level presentation material. So if I have a concept or a point of view that I've published, or a white paper that I've published, and I want to generate a deck to go talk at a conference or at a board meeting about that material, I haven't found anything. If you know about one that works really well, let me know. But I haven't found anything that will actually do that really well, both producing the content, but also keeping it in line with my brand standards, color schemes, et cetera, and then graphical artifacts and really doing that, because I'd love to have a good first draft of a presentation generated. I haven't seen that anywhere, right? I've seen tools that can generate a presentation based on an outline, but they don't look like the presentations that I would put together. So, or that my company would, or my client's company's presentation decks. It doesn't look anything like them. And either they have to change the way they have their standards so that it matches the AI, or we got to wait till it gets better.
Yeah, I think Jasper would be in a good position to do that potentially, but till then, I guess it would be some kind of prompt to actually, like have the text done. Again, the Zap based one most probably, and then fetch this like it's called again Mid-Journey, and prompt it right. So yeah, that could be a potential one. But yeah, let's see, what others do you know about that most people don't? For example, I use opus.ai for my YouTube short. That's a good one. I use Apollo AI for my outreach. What AI tools do you use to grow your business?
Well, I think every tool is now an AI tool, right? It's in my CRM, it's in HubSpot, it's in other places. But honestly, I'm more focused on the custom solutions that we're building for our clients, as opposed to evaluating and helping them recommend different tools. And part of this, Charles, is that my focus is firms that are of a fairly reasonable size, like $100 million up, and that work with enterprise clients. And so that means that what I'll call consumer or prosumer grade tools that are out there, including Jasper and others, are they're not really the right tools for enterprise adoption. They don't have the security models, they don't have the multi-user models, the governance, and all of that an enterprise is going to want to have. And they're great. They're fantastic for smaller firms and freelancers and others. But we're focused on how to solve problems that, how do we take a services business, right, and end to end compress a level of effort for them to achieve the same outcome by 20, 30, 50% across the entire enterprise. You can't do that with any one tool. You're going to need to do that with custom solutions. And that's really where we're focused.
Right. And what are the top use cases that you've seen? Is it more on the sales level? Is it more on the customer service level? Where do you feel is the low-hanging fruit right now with Gen AI in enterprise?
It's kind of all over the place. There's been some studies that have come out. I think it was McKinsey and Gartner's done the same thing as well, like trying to quantify what parts of the business are going to see the most amount of value. And I've looked at them and I've actually said, geez, I'm not sure that I 100% agree with that. An example might be for, kind of back office operations, procurement, right? Well, I've got to evaluate vendors. I've got to look through all my vendor contracts. I've got to look through my statements of work. I've got to look through different things. What do I have, right? What's there? Like I said, pre-sales and sales, obviously a big one. Marketing teams are all over AI, right? So they're using, looking for lots of help with copywriting, analytics, and we've just done a training for one of my clients around how to use the advanced data analysis capability in ChatGPT Plus to do analytics against marketing data that you get from different tools, and how to combine those together. Basically, I'll give credit to Orbit Media for a webinar that they showed how that could be valuable. So starting to think through how do you do both analytics in addition to copy, and trying to get more value out of this than just, I can write a letter, I can write an ad campaign, or I can write a blog post. That's great. Anybody can do that. But there's a lot more, summarize categorization, think about retrieval augmented generation. And I've got to take all my service catalog and put it into a vector database and then generate cut sheets and data sheets and everything else from it. Those kinds of use cases are pretty interesting. But you go all the way through into the services business. There's no reason why it can't be part of delivery as well, in the managed service delivery, auto categorizing tickets. I saw an interesting use case that applies in our side of our ICPs, ideal client profiles, but it was in a medical context. I saw it at an event last night where people are putting in their patient portals, they're putting messages to the doctors, right? And the ability to extract out of that message, sometimes people will type a long letter to the doctor, and really all they're looking for is a refill on their pain medication, right? And you have to read through this whole letter to get at, well, what the real ask here is, I want a refill on this pain medication. And so the ability for generative AI to read that email and actually say, hey, this is all just a request for a pain medication. The other thing is categorizing it. Is the email that comes in, is it urgent, meaning that I should pay attention to it right away? Is it critically urgent, meaning the person should have called 911, right? Or is it something that, I need to get to, but it's not critically or clinically urgent? Meaning, clinically, like in a couple of hours, critically urgent, got to call them tomorrow. I mean, call them in the next minute, not tomorrow. And then long term. So categorizing what's in there. I've got shortness of breath, and I'm I don't know, tingling in my arm, and I don't know what to do. Right? You should call 911, right? Because that's probably a heart condition or something. Versus, I need a refill on my pain meds. They run out next week. I can deal with that, right? So highly valuable. Now turn that into services. I've got tickets that are being generated. I've got they're being generated automatically off the system. I've also got customers inputting tickets or calling my support lines and looking for things. Or sending me emails. How do I categorize what the request is, what the need is, and then use that to not just decide how I'm going to respond, but also triage it. Which group does it go to? Frontline support often is just a triage function. Why should a human say that's an issue that goes to my second line support versus this is something broken in the client and they're out of production? I need to go to my urgent support. So these are really, really highly valuable use cases, and we can build all that through. But it requires, to be valuable, to really work, it requires one method of getting your data to be accessible via generative AI. Method one is retrieval augmented generation. I take the data and I put it in a vector database, and then I can ask it questions and it can give me answers.
Right. Okay. With that being said, what are your top goals for the rest of this year? What do you want to accomplish?
So what we want to accomplish this year is we're looking for services firms that we can engage with and help them map out these processes and implement this for them and get them to start moving fast. That's our number one goal right now, is more customers that we can talk to. We're reaching out to a bunch. We're getting a lot of traction. And then from a technology perspective, we're still building functionality in our platform that will make the ability for us to deliver these solutions to our clients a lot faster and require a lot less effort and technical support by our team. So those are the two areas: enablement through our platform, which is our core IP, and then finding clients that we can go engage with to help through these processes. The area where we're really focused right now is that sales process, where after I've qualified, there's an opportunity. Doing all of the work in the solution architecture and sales engineering kind of work to evaluate documents, create statements of work, create RFP responses, create internal governance documents, and all of that. That's where we're really focused today.
Right. Well, thank you, John, for sharing this. Where can people find out more about you? They can find John at aitp.doai, at John Treadway on Twitter, in John Treadway at LinkedIn, and of course aitp.com.